Oh, that poor girl. I heard they had to keep her casket closed because no one could recognize her. Seriously? That's just awful. She was such a lovely young woman. What happened to her is just heartbreaking. I stood quietly in the corner of the tiny convenience store, listening as two older women gossiped about my late sister and my best friend, Tyler, without drawing any attention to myself. My heart ached deeply, but it was nothing compared to the intense anger simmering inside me. I stayed still, trembling behind the shelves stocked with cookies and chips, desperately trying to suppress the urge to scream. Did they ever catch the guy who did it? Yeah, they finally arrested him. Thank goodness. It's still so tragic. What's happening to the world? Young women aren't even safe anymore. Well, to be honest, that girl was always wearing such revealing clothes. Low-cut tops and short skirts, of course, that would attract negative attention. I'd heard enough. Shaking uncontrollably, I walked briskly to the front of the store, clutching a bag of ranch-flavored Doritos in my hand. I tossed them onto the counter and shot an angry glare at the two elderly women gossiping near the refrigerated drinks section. They gasped when they saw me. The plumper of the two covered her mouth with her hand, while the slimmer one, who had been blaming the victim, offered a remorseful smile before speaking. "Oh, hello there, dear. We didn't realize you were here. We were just discussing the terrible incident. Please let your parents know that Mrs. Henderson sends her condolences." I stayed silent, knowing that speaking up wouldn't be respectful. I paid for the chips and stepped outside into the bright sunlight, shielding my eyes with my hand. It was warm, the beginning of summer. A gentle breeze swept through my wavy, dark brown hair as I took deep breaths to calm myself. My goodness, she looks just like her sister, doesn't she? Yes, she does. A stunning young woman. Let's just hope she doesn't suffer the same fate, Mrs. Henderson replied. As I walked away, the anger in my chest grew stronger. Lately, anger was the only emotion I felt. I passed by Joe's hardware store and caught my reflection in the window. Lately, looking at myself had been difficult. I was undeniably the spitting image of Tyler. We both inherited the best features from our biracial parents: light brown skin, hazel eyes, dark brown wavy hair flowing down our backs, long eyelashes, full lips, and hourglass figures. People always called us beautiful girls. It was this very beauty that made us targets and ultimately led to Tyler's murder. I had moved to the city for college, far from the small, gossipy town filled with backwoods ignorance. I aspired to be a photographer and was excelling in my studies. I frequently sent photos of breathtaking landscapes and people through texts and emails. I was talented. One weekend, I decided to take a rare break and have some fun with friends. At the bar, a guy approached me aggressively after I turned him down. Despite my refusals, he persisted until he became violent and was escorted out. A few hours later, I left the bar with my friends, but we split up to walk home separately. That man had waited for me. He followed me, assaulted me, and brutally beat me to death. This is how that beautiful girl died, killed by a man who couldn't accept the word no. I was only 21. The scumbag claimed I had invited it, that I wanted it, that I had approached him first. Rage surged through me, tears welling in my eyes. I walked home slowly to a house that no longer felt like home. My 18th birthday was next month. I had already been accepted to a prestigious university away from the small town to study digital art. My parents had a breakdown. They begged me to attend the local community college and stay at home, but I couldn't. There were things I needed to do, plans I had made. I despised the town and most of its nosy residents, just like Tyler did. We always dreamed of leaving and exploring the wider world. When I arrived home, my dog, Duke, greeted me joyfully. I patted his fuzzy black head before entering the kitchen, where my mother was quietly chopping green onions on the counter. I tossed my chips onto the kitchen table and wrapped my arms around her waist. I rested my head on her back, feeling her warmth and smelling her sweet scent. My mother remained silent, continuing to slice the green onions. I hadn't spoken much to her since I made it clear I wouldn't change my mind about going to university. She dropped the knife and stood silently, staring at the onions before turning around and hugging me tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Do you want me to be careful?" she asked, her voice breaking into a sob. "Mom, you don't have to worry," I replied softly. University. Summer had flown by faster than I had anticipated, and soon I was officially a university student. Although I had earned a full scholarship through multiple awards, a little extra cash was always needed. My parents agreed to help financially if I chose to live on campus or in a university-owned roommate apartment. I opted for the roommate apartment, which was pricier but offered the comfort and privacy I desired. My roommates seemed decent enough. They were around the same age except for Lily, a tanned, raven-haired 19-year-old science major who started university a year later. Then there was Emma, an energetic, curvy, pale redhead who studied literature, and Aisha, a second-generation West African with a model-esque beauty, pursuing a career as a pediatrician. Beautiful girls, I thought when I first met them. They had been there for less than a week, and classes were starting on Monday. It was a late Saturday evening with lovely weather. The girls wanted to have fun and explore the city before school got serious. They also thought it would be a great way to bond as a household. I pretended to be sick to their disappointment, but promised to join them next time. I watched them leave in their lift before getting ready myself. I slipped into a fitted black dress that accentuated all my curves. I parted my hair to one side, letting some strands fall gracefully over my shoulder. I applied eyeliner to my eyes and a deep red color to my lips. Black heels completed my outfit. I covered myself with a long cardigan before taking the busy city bus to the other side of town. Once there, I removed the cardigan and stuffed it into my large black purse, then walked gracefully down the sketchy street as the sun began to set. It didn't take long before the catcalling started. "Damn girl! You're fine as hell! Hey girl, that thing is tight! What's up, baby girl?" I ignored the comments and kept walking. The sound of loud techno music signaled that I had arrived at my destination, Club Pyrex, a rather rundown clay stone building with a mix of people coming and going. As I entered, I was immediately stopped and asked for ID, which I had thanks to my sister. I used Tyler's ID since we were nearly identical. I walked into the crowded and noisy space where the bar was located at the back. I squeezed through the crowd until I felt a firm grip on my left forearm. I turned to see a middle-aged man with a well-trimmed beard smiling at me. "Damn, baby, you are so beautiful. Can I buy you a drink?" he asked loudly as the music played and people danced, laughed, and drank. "No, thank you," I responded, trying to pull my arm away, but the man wouldn't let go. "Oh, come on, just one drink," he exclaimed. I said no thank you. "Please let go of my arm," I demanded angrily. The man tightened his grip. "Hey, you don't have to be rude. I just wanted to buy you a drink," he replied angrily. I said no. I responded loudly, drawing the attention of a few drunk dancers. Reluctantly, he let go, but not before calling me a bitch and storming off. I stood in the dancing crowd, smiling. I watched him as he tried to pick up a couple more young women, but there were no takers. He became increasingly angry before leaving the bar in a huff. Outside in the night, he cursed under his breath and pulled a cigarette out of his pants pocket. Walking to the side of the club, he leaned against the building. The sound of footsteps caught his attention. I stood there, looking at him with a smile on my face. "What the hell are you smiling at? Wait, you're the rude bitch from the club. What's so funny?" he shouted angrily, throwing the barely smoked cigarette on the ground. I dashed behind the building, and the man chased me furiously. As he turned the corner, a surge of electricity struck him from the side of his neck and traveled down to his toes. Every muscle in his body clenched painfully and tightly. He dropped to the ground, shaking, as I stood above him, grinning menacingly. I placed a taser back in my bag with gloved hands and pulled out a roll of fishing line, carefully wrapping it around my hands before placing some around his neck. I pulled tightly as some of the line cut through his skin. I placed my knee in his back to gain better leverage while listening to the muffled techno music playing. I stayed there, looking around to ensure no one was watching. After a few minutes, I released him. Placing my gloved hands on the side of his bruised neck, I checked for a pulse that was no longer there. I flipped off the gloves carefully, placed the fishing line inside them, and put them back in my purse. I donned my long cardigan once more and headed back to the bus stop, feeling a surge of euphoria flow through my chest. The weekend zipped by in a haze, and by Monday, orientation week had kicked off for me and my roommates. I was rudely awakened by Emily's loud laughter echoing through the apartment. Still groggy, I dragged myself out of bed and headed to our small, shared living area that combined the living room and kitchen. I greeted everyone with a polite nod as they hurried through their breakfasts. Sarah was lounging on the couch, sipping her tea and catching up on the morning news. As I approached the kitchen sink, a news bulletin grabbed my attention. It reported a man found dead behind Club Pyrex early Saturday morning. The police were urging anyone with information or who had witnessed anything to come forward. "That's awful," Emily exclaimed, her fork paused midair. "That's across town, right?" Zoe asked, taking a bite of her bagel. "Yeah, it's in a pretty rough neighborhood," Sarah responded, switching off the TV and standing up from the couch. "We should all stay away from there then," I suggested, carefully washing my hands. "Definitely," Zoe and Emily agreed simultaneously. I sat down to eat my breakfast of jam on toast and sliced fruit, chatting casually with my roommates about the day's agenda. We had been instructed to wear comfortable yet presentable clothes for a campus tour with the other freshmen. The plan included getting our official campus IDs, meeting with academic advisors, and registering for classes. Lunch would be provided in between sessions. I feigned enthusiasm alongside the others, though I despised overly social activities. Too many people were draining and nerve-wracking for me. After a quick breakfast, I brushed my teeth, took a shower, and meticulously groomed myself. I chose to wear a mid-thigh plaid pinafore dress over a thin, quarter-sleeve off-white blouse, paired with comfortable navy flats that my mom had gifted me for university. I styled my hair into double buns, allowing two wavy strands to frame my face beautifully. I adorned my ears with small diamond stud earrings that had belonged to Tyler. Minimal makeup was all I needed to enhance my natural beauty. I applied a light eyeshadow and a tinted gloss to my lips, looking as delicate as a doll. I admired my reflection in the mirror for a few seconds before noticing the large black purse's arm straps poking out from under my bed. I shoved it further out of sight. The gloves with the fishing line inside were still tucked in the inner pocket. I'd dispose of them properly later. My roommates also looked stunning, especially Zoe with her long braids that always made her look runway ready. The campus was bustling and loud, much to my dismay but to Emily's delight. Groups of freshmen followed signs directing them to various activity areas. My roommates and I had already been assigned to a group and knew our starting point. We would join others as we explored the expansive campus. As I walked briskly, holding a cute small purse securely over my shoulder, I kept a vigilant eye on the male students, who openly ogled me and the other attractive girls in our group. Predators are everywhere all around, I thought to myself. The day was long and as exhausting as I had anticipated. I found myself separated from my roommates to tour the specific building where I would be studying for my digital arts degree. I walked awkwardly toward a newly constructed, large, modern light gray building alongside other computer art majors. Suddenly, I felt a light touch on my shoulder that made me jump. I turned around to see the nervous smile of an attractive, tall, dark-skinned young man with bright brown eyes holding out my lip tint. "Oh, you dropped this," he said in a surprisingly deep and soothing voice. I glanced down at my small purse and realized I had left it open after placing my new ID inside. The lip tint must have fallen out. I politely took it from his hand. "Thank you," I replied, placing it back into my purse and snapping it shut. He blushed as we both continued walking toward the large new building, trailing behind the group. We remained silent as we entered, listening to the student representatives speak enthusiastically about the new building's features. The tour lasted about an hour before we were led to a spacious computer lab to set up our university emails and passcodes for accessing the school's online learning platform. The young man sat beside me, occasionally sneaking glances my way. One of the representatives walked around, giving us brief but detailed instructions on what to do next. "I'm Nathan, by the way," he whispered to me. "Hi, Nathan, I'm Michael, but you can call me Mike," I replied politely. "Man, I'm kinda nervous. Today has been a lot," Nathan admitted, raising his well-trimmed eyebrows. "I feel the same way," I responded, typing on my computer. "We've got a few more days like this. Honestly, I hate crowds and all this social stuff," Nathan confessed, sounding exhausted. I looked at him for a moment and smiled. "Oh my God, same. This is so draining," I replied. "Yeah, it's exhausting and unnecessary. Just give me my class schedule, show me where to go, and let it be," Nathan said, turning slightly in his seat to face me. "I know, right? I feel exactly the same way. Like, why are we doing all of this? I'm not interested in integrating with my peers," I responded, rolling my eyes. "I know, I just want my degree so I can get my bag, you know what I mean?" Nathan explained passionately. Nathan and I laughed, catching the attention of other students. We dipped sheepishly behind our computers, snickering. "We get lunch after this. Want to go to the dining hall with my roommates and me?" Nathan asked politely. "Well, I'm supposed to meet my roommates there for lunch," I replied. "Why don't we all meet up together? At least there'll be people we already know, right? If my roommates are cool, then I'm cool with it," I responded. Nathan smiled and sat up straight in his chair. He reflected on Friday when he first noticed me with my roommates. He thought I was absolutely stunning. His roommates had encouraged him to approach me, but he was too awkward and nervous. He had seen me multiple times and had remained concealed. He noticed that I also avoided large crowds and looked uncomfortable around loud groups. He was thrilled when he realized later that I was studying in the same area as him. Using one of his not-so-great skills to find an opening, he carefully and discreetly opened my purse and snatched out my lip gloss. He always had quick hands and was very slick. He felt happy, thinking about how much nicer I was than he had initially expected. I didn't realize just how famished I was until the irresistible scents of roasted meats, fresh vegetables, and sweet desserts filled the expansive university dining hall. The place was packed, with 4 steady queues of students and staff members swiping their cards, redeeming vouchers, or paying with cash before moving toward the buffet-style food stations. Darian had brought along his friends. Cody, a tall, slender blonde guy with striking blue eyes. Cien, a good-looking dark-haired young man of East Asian descent. And Mason, a strong-built brunette sporting glasses that partially concealed his expressive green eyes. Everyone was welcoming toward me, though a bit reserved, as they met my roommates amidst the bustling dining hall. The girls instantly noticed the handsome group of young men accompanying me. Rachel's face brightened as she flashed a radiant smile at Mason.
"Oh, so these are the friends you've been texting about?"
Rachel asked with excitement.
"Yeah. Is it all right if they join us for lunch?"
I inquired softly.
"Absolutely,"
Sarah and Rachel replied together, while Zoe nodded in agreement. The 8 of us navigated our way through the lines with our vouchers and headed toward the buffet area. I loaded my tray with a variety of delicious dishes as Darian awkwardly trailed behind me, making small talk. We all congregated around a long table where Cody quickly settled next to Sarah, occasionally stealing glances as he ate. Conversations flowed smoothly as we got acquainted, while Rachel unabashedly flirted with Mason, complimenting his muscular build. I felt a flicker of annoyance at her forward behavior. Sarah seemed equally interested in Mason, bonding over their shared passion for sports and athletics from high school. Cody and Rachel appeared a bit downcast from their interactions. Zoe remained as polite as ever, engaging each guy equally, while Darian skillfully diverted any attempts his friends made to engage deeply with me. Before we left the dining hall to meet our advisors and select our class schedules, everyone exchanged numbers. To my surprise, Darian and I were assigned the same advisor, whose office was located in the new building where our computer courses would be held. Our appointments were scheduled 30 minutes apart, so we decided to walk there together.
"What do you think of the guys?"
Darian asked.
"They seem nice,"
I replied.
"Yeah, they are. Your roommates seem great too." "They're all right. I kind of wish I could live alone, but it is what it is,"
I responded, shrugging my shoulders.
"Hey, do you know which classes you want to take first?"
Darian inquired.
"I need to enroll in some general education courses and a few introductory classes,"
I answered. Darian stayed quiet as we approached the building. We walked together to our advisor's office, Mrs. Cannery's, where a student was just leaving. It was my turn next. Darian sat outside the door, watching me through the glass window. His heart raced as he observed me talking. Even my side profile was stunning. He couldn't hear anything exchanged between me and Mrs. Cannery, which bothered him. He hoped our schedules would align. He leaned in closer to the door, but our conversation remained inaudible. A few minutes before the 30-minute mark, I stood up with a smile, holding a piece of paper Mrs. Cannery had given me, and exited the door.
"Oh, you finished a bit early,"
Darian remarked, standing up.
"Yeah, I pretty much knew which courses I wanted to sign up for this semester." So what did you decide on, if you don't mind me asking?"
Darian asked shyly.
"Oh, she recommended starting with 4 classes this semester, 2 general education courses, and 2 introductory ones,"
I explained.
"Cool. Can you wait for me, please? Once I'm done, we can go enroll in classes at the computer lab together,"
Darian asked.
Okay, sure,"
I responded, taking a seat. Darian took a quick glance at my paper and saw only
"Design Principles."
He then walked into the office
and greeted Mrs. Cannery, a middle-aged woman with light brown eyes and shoulder-length light brown hair. She smiled warmly as she sipped from her mug. Darian greeted her politely and took a seat. He scanned her desk quickly and noticed my full name on a file before Mrs. Cannery closed it.
Mr. Watkins, welcome to your first year at the university. Congratulations on your acceptance. We're thrilled to have you here,
Mrs. Cannery said kindly.
I'm happy to be here,
Darian replied. He began coughing, lifting his hand to cover his mouth. Mrs. Cannery looked concerned as he swung his backpack forcefully onto her desk, accidentally knocking over her mug of tea.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry,
Darian exclaimed between coughs.
Oh, that's okay, dear. I'll be right back. Let me grab some paper towels,
Mrs. Cannery responded, setting her papers aside before leaving her desk. Darian watched her leave the room and smiled at me through the door as I peeked in. Once I turned back around, he quickly got up, staying low, and grabbed the file with my name on it. He opened it and noted the handwritten list of classes Mrs. Cannery had recommended for me. He swiftly placed the file back and returned to his seat just as Mrs. Cannery came back. He helped her dry her desk, apologizing profusely. Afterwards, they discussed his plans, degree, and which classes he should start with. I texted my parents about my progress as Darian exited Mrs. Cannery's office. His eyes sparkled brightly as he greeted me with a wide smile.
All set?
He asked.
Yep, let's head to the computer lab and enroll in our courses before they get filled up,
Darian replied, adjusting his backpack on his shoulder.
So how many classes are you starting with this semester?
I asked.
Oh, 4 like you,
he answered.
Yeah, that seems like the best balance,
I responded politely.
So I decided to take fundamentals of graphic design, design principles, geometry, and intro to philosophy,
Darian said, smiling.
Wow, me too. Those are the classes I'm taking,
I exclaimed, smiling back.
Well, we're in the same major. We should make sure to enroll in the same courses so we can work together. I mean, if you want to,
Darian added shyly.
Sure, that sounds good,
I replied, narrowing my eyes slightly. Orientation week had swept by like a relentless storm for me and my roommates. By Friday, we were all utterly exhausted and frustrated from the week's endless activities. Sarah had successfully tried out for and secured a spot on the women's volleyball team, while Zoe was eyeing several sororities with keen interest. Emily had joined the Leaders of Tomorrow Club, a group known for its ambitious and academically driven members. As for me, I chose to forego joining any clubs because I was already committed to my own extracurricular pursuits. On Friday morning, we wrapped up finalizing our class schedules and had quick meetings with our advisors to address any last-minute questions. That evening was reserved for a celebration, a freshman Nixer to officially kick off the semester. I wasn't particularly excited about attending, but we had already planned to meet Darian and his roommates there. For the event, I opted for low-cut, fitted jeans paired with a soft pink blouse that revealed a hint of midriff. I styled my hair into a high ponytail and adorned my ears with medium-sized silver hoops that matched the silver bangles on my right wrist. Soft pink flats completed my ensemble. I took a moment to admire my appearance in the bedroom mirror before heading out with my roommates. As expected, the freshman mixer was loud and bustling. The sun was still high in the sky, and pop music blared from the speakers in the student courtyard. Tables were laden with pizza and inexpensive charcuterie boards on both sides, alongside coolers filled with chilled bottled water and canned sodas. Some students laughed heartily while playing cornhole, others engaged in spirited trash-talking over games of darts, and an intense game of Uno was underway at a table that caught my attention. Before I could make my way over, Darian and his roommates intercepted me. Darian clung to me like glue, heightening my irritation as I tried to approach my roommates at a snack table. The 8 of us gathered, engaging in conversation and enjoying our food. The music ramped up, playing popular pop tunes that made Rachel sing along loudly. After an hour of idle chatter, I decided to dance a bit. I pulled Rachel, Emily, and Sarah along to the makeshift dance floor in the middle of the courtyard. Everyone watched as I swayed seductively, moving my hips rhythmically to the beat. Sarah and Emily clapped and laughed loudly as Rachel joined in. Darian watched me, his face flushed and his breathing growing more erratic. I closed my eyes and danced until sweat began to bead on my smooth skin, giving me a glistening appearance in the setting sunlight. Suddenly, strong hands gripped my hips. My eyes flew open as I spun around to see a young man I'd never seen before, with pale gray eyes and messy blonde hair, smiling and swaying with me. I pulled away angrily just as Darian approached calmly.
"What the hell?"
I exclaimed, gripping the young man.
"Damn, dude, relax. I just wanted to dance with you,"
he replied.
"You should ask her first,"
Darian interjected, his face turning red.
"Who the hell are you?"
the young man snapped. I placed my hand on Darian's chest to calm him down as Sarah, Rachel, and Emily walked over, forming a circle around the young man. They glared at him angrily with their arms crossed, while other students began to notice the confrontation.
"He's my friend, and you're not. So please don't touch me without my permission, okay?"
I stated firmly.
"Whatever,"
the young man replied, waving his hand before storming off angrily. Whispers and stares followed as Darian's roommates approached, asking what had happened. I reassured them that everything was fine, though Darian still looked upset. We all returned to the snack tables as the young man watched us with a group of his friends from across the courtyard. I pretended not to notice, but Darian locked eyes with him, maintaining intense eye contact. Saturday arrived like a breath of fresh air. The house was finally quiet as we decided to sleep in, with even Rachel snoring softly into the early morning hours. I got up before everyone else and checked my phone. Tonight, I was going out again. Club Destiny was my destination this time. It was located in a rough part of the city, known for prostitution and drug dealing. I knew I needed to be cautious and vigilant. I quickly ate a small breakfast before dressing in running tights and a matching fitted sports tank. I had ordered one of my more expensive school books at a discount from an off-campus bookstore a few blocks away from Club Destiny. Picking it up later would give me an excuse to leave. I grabbed my refillable metal water bottle, placed my earbuds in, and stretched before setting out for my morning run. The apartment complex was large and just across the street from the university. I planned to run around the perimeter of the complex a few times before heading back home. I turned on one of Tyler's favorite instrumental songs. The lively violin and drum sounds filled my ears, making my mind drift as I began my jog. The sun was still rising, and a slight coolness lingered in the air. I ran down the side street of my apartment complex, noticing that only a few cars passed by with their headlights still on. I made my way to 3rd Street, where 2 other apartment complexes stood side by side, with an alleyway between them. I turned and headed down the alley, scrunching my nose as I passed the large city trash bins lining the path. Suddenly, I was shoved harshly from behind into the wall of one of the other apartment buildings, knocking my earbuds out. I caught myself with the palms of my hands, my water bottle dangling from a cord tied around my wrist. Spinning around angrily, I was met with the furious face of the young man from the freshman mixer and 2 of his friends. One had black hair and looked around nervously, while the other had brown hair and smiled at me creepily.
Remember me, bitch?
The young man demanded sharply.
What do you think you're doing?
I screamed angrily. He walked up to me and grabbed my face harshly with his hand, pushing his body tightly against mine and pinning me against the building wall.
You think you're so much, don't you?
He whispered in my ear.
You're making a mistake,
I replied calmly.
The mistake was embarrassing me last night,
he responded angrily. I narrowed my eyes as the young man stared at me viciously.
If you apologize, I might let you go, well, after I have a little fun,
he said with a smirk.
Who said I wanted to be let go?
I replied, smiling menacingly.
You think this is a joke?
The young man demanded, spitting a spray of spit into my face. Without replying, I shoved him back hard and quickly kneed him in the groin. He grabbed his crotch, cussing angrily as his friend lunged to attack. I swung my metal water bottle, hitting him in the face and sending him flying backward. I followed up with a firm kick to his chest, knocking him against the side of a trash bin. The black-haired young man's eyes widened as he turned and sprinted down the alley, leaving his two friends behind with me. He tried to stand up, still clutching his legs, and cursed at me.
Fuck you!
He screamed as I walked over to him. I swung the bottle again, striking him hard across the head and causing him to fall to his knees. Blood poured from the side of his head as he held his wound, staring at me in fear. My eyes burned with anger, and my lips twisted into a sinister grin that sent chills down his spine as he looked into my eyes.
You know, I could kill you both right now,
I said coldly, my voice losing its sweet tone.
Please. It was a joke. I wasn't going to do anything for real. I swear,
the young man cried out. The sun had fully risen by then, its light hitting my face and sobering me up. I looked around, noticing the young man's friend moaning on the ground while the young man remained on his knees, holding his bloodied head.
I'll be seeing you boys later,
I said calmly as I grabbed my earbuds from the ground. The young man watched me run through the alleyway and disappear around the corner before struggling to get up, cursing angrily as he did. He helped his friend to his feet, and they both slowly walked through the alleyway, moaning in pain. From behind an opening between the two apartment buildings, Darian watched angrily, shaking violently with his phone in hand and a video recording on.